The timeline in After Effects has elements in common with the layer panel in Photoshop. So if you know how that works, you'll have a bit of a head start. Basically, elements in the timeline stack from the bottom up in layers and appear in the comp window as if they're stacked back to front. Again, just like Photoshop. And you can use switches to control things like visibility, locking, quality, and so on. But this is After Effects, so of course it does a whole lot more. The obvious difference here is this big time ruler that extends out to the right of the layer names. Here you can navigate in time, zoom in and out, trim the start and end points of a layer, and set keyframes, as we'll see shortly. As a reminder, everything in After Effects is handled non-destructively. You just change parameters as much as you like until you get the effect you want. And while you can drag some stuff around in the comp window, you can adjust everything about a layer down here in the timeline by twirling open a layer's properties. The basic properties are anchor point, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. And there are audio controls too if your clip has audio. This list can grow much longer as you add effects, work in 3D, and learn to do more sophisticated things in After Effects. This property view is where you animate things in After Effects as well. In general, you locate the property you want to animate and then click the stopwatch to enable keyframes for this property. This enables animation for the property and automatically adds an initial keyframe at the current time. Navigate to another point in time and change the value, for example by moving this layer to a new position, and a new keyframe is automatically generated. No need to click the stopwatch again. In fact, if you do, you'll turn keyframes off for the property, which is not what you want. Once you've added a few keyframes, you may want to adjust the method After Effects uses to generate the in-between stages. Right-clicking on a keyframe reveals a few automatic ease settings you can apply. Easy Ease is often all you need to choose, and once applied, you see the shape of the keyframe has changed, and our motion is now a little more smooth. If you want to have ultimate control over the velocity curve of any animation, you can click this switch to reveal After Effects Graph Editor. This is way too advanced for an introductory lesson, but I wanted to show you it was there in case you have experience with curve editors in other applications. We mentioned switches, but there are a few more of them here than you typically see in other applications, and the way some of them operate is quite powerful but potentially confusing. For example, some of them appear twice, both down here on the layer itself, and also up here at the top of the timeline window where we just saw the Graph Editor button. That's because you can set switches on multiple layers and then enable or disable some of them globally for the whole comp. For example, I could have 5 layers here that all have motion blur turned on. But if I find that's slowing down my machine, I can turn off motion blur for the whole comp by just clicking this single button. Their layer switches are still enabled, and they will still render when I make my final movie, but I can temporarily enable or disable them with this switch. We'll talk a lot more about these switches in later lessons.